Hey guys, and welcome back to Marvelous Videos with me, Ray Jericho. We all love the X-Men, but the loudest hoots are heard when Wolverine enters the frame. The mutant with regenerative powers and adamantium claws has pierced our hearts with every slash he lays on the enemies, and, of course, with his dry sarcasm. And die-hard fans cannot deny owning at least one element in their lives bearing Wolverine's trademark symbols. So, here we are, paying an ode to one of the ultimate superheroes across comic books, Wolverine. Open your listening ears, because in this video, we will unveil 15 superpowers that Wolverine had, which you die-hard fans may have overlooked. These are besides his ability to charm women. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Wolverine is usually resistant to telepathy and psychic attacks. In a world where Class 5 mutants can take control of your brain and make you perform horrendous acts, Wolverine's regenerative powers have cleverly found resistance from within. Now, this resistance to telepathy and psychic attacks was developed over time. Here is how it happened. Wolverine was often prey to mind attacks from other mutants, as we have seen in the past. But because of his super healing powers, his brain healed from these psionic attacks. Moreover, his mind conditioned itself to add protective layers, like psychic scar tissues, to prevent further vulnerability to such assaults. Wolverine calls it his armor for his mind. Another theory also suggests that Wolverine's psychic resistance stems from Professor X. Professor Charles Xavier, the famous mutant with psionic abilities, added shields in Wolverine's brain to make him immune to telepathy and psychic attacks. Although these weren't foolproof, the shields did the needful to make Logan resist most cognitive strikes. Now, one fan theory up for debate here is that could the adamantium in Wolverine's skull have something to do with his resistance to telepathy and psionic threats? There are comparisons out there with Magneto's and Juggernaut's metal helmets and how they can repel the mind menaces. However, we are not entirely sure which metal Magneto or Juggernaut used to fashion their helmets. Hence, the adamantium theory remains questionable. We would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments. He has the infamous Berserker Rage powers. Hell hath no fury like a berserk Wolverine. Wolverine was never one to keep a calm head on his shoulders, although he does try to read the situation before attacks. Well, at least sometimes. Among his many superpowers, Wolverine is blessed, or perhaps cursed, by what is known as the Berserker Rage. The mutant uses this rage to fight his most challenging opponents. We have seen Logan go after Victor, aka Sabretooth, in Wolverine Origins, where Sabretooth even points out and asks Logan if the rage felt good. When in the Berserker mode, Wolverine loses complete control over himself and transforms into a deadly beast. Well, not literally. He lashes out at his enemies with brutal attacks, and no one is spared. With no self-control, Wolverine often fails to identify friends from foes, and many a time, his allies have been the unfortunate prey of the Berserker Rage. So, obviously, the Berserker Rage is often ensued by remorse and regret over barbarous acts. It's almost as if the animal in Wolverine is out on display when he is overpowered by his Berserker Rage. There are times when the Berserker Rage has saved Logan's life. When the rage overtakes Wolverine's mind, he doesn't think before acting, and his moves become unpredictable, even to himself. This acts as a perfect shield, especially with enemies who can read his moves.
What's my name? What's my name? Your name is Logan.
Wolverine can manipulate his own memory. There's no denying that Wolverine's life has been anomalous. To begin with, no one knows how old he is, since he has seen more than a century and has tried to change with time. Secondly, he cannot remember most of his past. Ever wondered why? Just like how his healing powers resulted in his ability to resist psychic powers, Wolverine gained the skills to manipulate and suppress his memories. Every traumatic incident from his past was buried by his healing powers to protect his mind. Wolverine the Origin comics delved into his past, where he was born into a wealthy family and had a friend named Rose, who was missing in the movie version of the story. Rose was his sole companion when Wolverine discovered his powers and ran away from his house. In the comics, she deciphers that felt Wolverine's mind could have been injured due to his father's traumatic death, and that his brain was somehow healing itself by suppressing his memories. So, as it turns out, Wolverine's mysterious past can be his own brain's ability to suppress tragic memories. It could also be the reason why he couldn't remember how he got into the Weapon X program, and the pain he might have endured as the adamantium was laced within his body.
We have to regroup.
I know, but there's a problem.
He can detect lies by using his super senses. Who needs lie detectors when you have Wolverine? So, you may be aware that Wolverine has super senses, like heightened smell and hearing. We have seen him use these senses time and again in both the comics as well as the movies. These super senses made him an excellent tracker, but these powers do more than just that. They can also help him read people and tell when someone is lying. Now, for these senses to work, Wolverine has to concentrate a little harder than usual, yet they have helped him out of a tight spot or two. Wolverine can detect signs of deception by listening closely to fluctuations in the heartbeat, much like a lie detector test. He can even sense the slightest quiver in speech if the person is lying. And of course, the body language unveils itself to Wolverine with the smallest change. For instance, when sweat glands give away the lie, it works almost like a Spidey sense, only Wolverine's smelling ability helped him to recognize Spidey when not in costume. But apart from his super senses, we should also consider the fact that Wolverine is a keen observer and also has animal instincts, which could aid in gauging deceptions. We think his lie detecting ability might be underrated, but we want to know what you think about it in the comments. Exploring his secret adamantium powers. Every fan knows that Wolverine's skeletal structure is all adamantium, but do you know about the additional powers this metal grants him? If you remember, in the movie Wolverine Origins, Wolverine knocked out Sabretooth with one kick-ass punch. Now, one can always argue that Wolverine is strong, but the adamantium in him gives him augmented powers to strike more impactfully. And then, of course, we have the fastball special, where Colossus has hurled Wolverine like a shot put toward the enemy. Wolverine was the chosen one for this throw because of his strong adamantium-laced body and healing factors, which meant he could exponentially damage the enemy without dire consequences. The adamantium also offers additional powers to Wolverine's claws. In The Return of Wolverine Issue 2, Wolverine returns from the dead, but can barely remember himself. He meets Anna, who helps him recall things, and we see him ask her if she has heard anything about his claws getting hot enough to ignite fuel. Adamantium is highly resistant to heat and fire, which allowed Wolverine to heat up his claws and slice through people like butter. We have also known his adamantium claws to cut through Captain America's vibranium shield. Moreover, there are villains in the Marvelverse who are weakened by the adamantium in Wolverine's body, so all he has to do to defeat them is pretty much stand next to them. Wolverine has the power of night vision. Now, Wolverine is known for his animalistic traits like heightened smelling and high hearing. Another trait added to this animal's characteristics is the ability to see perfectly in the dark. Unlike regular humans who require night vision glasses, Wolverine's eyes have built-in night vision, which becomes a significant advantage when fighting in the dark. If you remember in X-Men United, when the Xavier Mansion was under attack by forces wearing night vision goggles, Wolverine struck in the dark, taking down the guards without needing to blink and adapt his eyes. His night vision powers also helped him track down people through dark places where no one else could go without shining a torch beam first. Although this superpower has often been unexplored to its full extent, imagine what Wolverine can do with it. From being the night guard on surveillance duty to taking a shot at his clueless enemies, darkness works to Wolverine's advantage. So, what do you think about this undervalued superpower?
What do you want him to say?
Wolverine.
He can speak multiple languages. Wolverine is a Canadian-born mutant who has easily lived over a century. This would also suggest that he has seen more of the world than any other superhero that we know of. He has even fought in World War II and the Civil War. So, clearly, he has had plenty of time to learn multiple languages. This polyglot mutant is fluent in English, Japanese, French, Chinese, Arabic, Russian, Spanish, Lakota, and Cheyenne. He also knows German, Thai, Portuguese, Vietnamese, and Farsi. Although he may not be as articulate in these languages, Wolverine has even ventured a bit more into Japanese culture with a Japanese lover, and even a wife from that country. We have seen his multilinguistic abilities often showcased in the comics, but these elements weren't explored to the fullest in the movies. Even though the film Wolverine was mainly based in Japan, we rarely saw Wolverine speak the language. Now you might think, Why is this a superpower? Wolverine's adaptability to multiple languages comes with his extensive knowledge of diverse cultures. This means he can easily blend, communicate, and even convince people from different regions of his motives. He could also play the fool while gathering vital information for the team, making him one of the best at espionage. He is resistant to diseases and drugs. Wolverine's regenerative powers cure him faster than he can snort the drugs. In our previous video, we spoke of how Wolverine can barely get drunk, and more often than not, it was a placebo effect because his body treats alcohol like poison and eliminates it using his healing abilities. The same goes for toxic drugs and fatal diseases. His body sees them as threats, and his healing factor gets to work instantly. Wolverine cannot even catch a cold, even if you sneeze right in his face. He has probably survived through pandemics and epidemics over a century. In the X-Men United, when the mansion is under attack, Wolverine gets shot with a tranquilizer. We see him continue to fight after briefly shaking his head to clear the effects of the sedative. That's how fast his body regenerates. Even in the comics, his healing has helped him counter hallucinogens and other drugs, while safeguarding him against his enemies. In one comic, his friends tried to get him drunk on an alien mix of intoxicants, hallucinogens, etc. And Wolverine got a buzz only when it was continually poured into his system. His body's extraordinary abilities keep him away from harm, be it diseases or intoxicants. He could survive a nuclear explosion. Wolverine can heal, but how often can he show him getting injured with mere cuts and wounds? Over the years, Marvel writers started getting creative with Wolverine's healing powers. First, it was cuts, then bullet holes, then regrowing major organs, and finally, the ultimate weapon, a nuclear detonation. Yes, Wolverine can survive where other superheroes are bound to doom, and die along with all the humans, obviously. The movie The Wolverine introduced Logan imprisoned in an underground bunker in Nagasaki, minutes before the atomic bomb was to blast. A soldier opened the door to let him out, to which he told the soldier to join him inside instead, as there was little chance of his survival. Yet, he survived. As the bomb went off, Wolverine pushed the soldier into the bunker and saved him by holding a metal door over the soldier, while letting himself get burnt brutally in the explosion. We saw a singed Wolverine after the fire died down, rapidly healing back to his original form. That just makes us realize that Wolverine has seen too much human damage over the years. No wonder he is so cynical most of the time.
Hey! Up!
Wolverine is an expert sword fighter and specializes in hand-to-hand combat. Wolverine is more than just claws. His extensive years in Japan led him to learn a thing or two about samurai swords, and with Wolverine's diligence, you can surely expect him to be proficient at wielding the long blade. Wolverine mastered the katana by learning from some of the best fighters in Japan. Not only that, but equipped with metallic bones, his body packs more in a punch than you can imagine, which gives him the upper edge in hand-to-hand combat. With claws cased in, Wolverine has often sent knockout throws at his opponent. Well, at least when he didn't want them dead. But even with claws out, Wolverine has had some epic fight scenes in the comics, animated series, as well as movies. Also, he has had over 100 years to perfect the art of combat. With Wolverine being as old as he is, it is safe to say that he has witnessed and imbibed some killer moves. You cannot forget Hugh Jackman's Wolverine origin depiction, where he charges with a bayonet during the war, taking cannonball hits straight to his chest. He is also skilled with guns of all kind, one of the few times where he sheathes his claws to shoot a weapon.
For many years, I have wanted to thank you for saving my life.
Wolverine has slow aging. This meme from the Graham Norton show perfectly exemplifies Wolverine's slow aging factor. In the first X-Men movie, when Jean Grey shows scans of Wolverine's skeleton to Professor X and the others, she mentions two important things. One, that she was amazed how he survived the adamantium lacing in his body, and two, that it was impossible to determine his age and that he could be way older than Professor X himself. We have also seen in the X-Men First Class film that the younger Professor X and Magneto are trying to recruit Wolverine, and well, we know how that went. Though both Professor X and Magneto aged over time, Wolverine seems to have stayed in his 40s. As it turns out, his regenerative abilities slow down his body's approach to the world of wrinkles. However, Wolverine the Origins comics seems to have overlooked this factor. The comics showed Wolverine aging the same way as Rose. Well, technically, Wolverine should have been in his teens a little longer after his mutant powers kicked in, but then again, he had ill health before his powers manifested. The only explanation we can think of is that his body was trying to heal years of sickness while allowing him to age naturally somehow. And once he became the muscled Wolverine as we know him, it slowed the aging process drastically. Doesn't seem like a great theory, does it? Let us know what you think. He briefly possessed the Phoenix Force. Professor X, in the third X-Men movie, mentions that Jean Grey had a dual personality named Phoenix, who he had held back by adding powerful barriers in Jean's brain. Phoenix had later broken these barriers and emerged as a super powerful mutant. But little did the professor know that Phoenix was not a dual personality, but a powerful psychic entity that inhabited Jean's body. The Phoenix Force embeds itself at birth in mutants with telepathic powers. Later, as the mutants grow older and their powers manifest, Phoenix becomes the dominant force in them, and Wolverine has been controlled by this force. Although in a different universe, Spider-Man and Wolverine travel through time during one of their expeditions, and they end up in a tumultuous future. In the ensuing fight, Wolverine decides the only way out is to sacrifice himself and destroy a planet run by Dr. Doom's conscience using the Phoenix gun. But Spidey wasn't letting Wolverine die that easy and revived him using a cosmic cube. Unfortunately, the cube gave way for the Phoenix Force to manifest itself in Wolverine's body. Once again, Spider-Man came to his rescue, and with his continued encouragement, Wolverine expelled Phoenix from his body. He could communicate with animals. Wolverine may not howl like a wolf, but he can understand their language. One of Wolverine's many superpowers, and an often underestimated one, is his ability to communicate with animals. In X-Men 2, Wolverine is searching for answers from his past when he arrives at Alkali Lake. At the entrance, he sees a wolf, and they seem to have a non-verbal conversation. The wolf then enters the facility at the Alkali Lake, with Wolverine following suit. In the comics too, Wolverine was often seen hanging out with wolves and even sharing a kill or two with them. Can you imagine Wolverine eating a raw deer? Well, he does have a more feral side to him. Interestingly, Wolverine possesses remarkable animal empathy, which helps him understand and sense their emotional and physical well-being. In the Wolverine movie, Logan strolls alongside a grizzly in the jungle, and the bear has a casual banter with Wolverine and growls. Later, the same grizzly is left to die by some hunters. The bear communicates with Wolverine, almost begging Wolverine to end his life. Wolverine asks the bear not to make him do it, but upon further insistence, Wolverine ends the bear's life. He then moves on to avenge his four-legged friend. Wolverine is a true champion for wildlife, where they both have mutually aided each other on several occasions.
Come on!
Wolverine and his underrated intelligence. It is said that sarcasm is a mark of true intelligence. Add to that decades of life experience, and we have Wolverine, a super intelligent being. Wolverine is never devoid of witty lines, which rarely get any comebacks. Like when he first met Professor X in the X-Men movie and called him Wheels. He is also adept in multiple languages, which is another sign of superior intelligence. Now, Wolverine may not be super tech-savvy or have the scientific genius like other Marvel superheroes, yet he knows how to handle challenging situations without breaking a sweat. His wits come from his mature age, and he can teach the other superheroes a thing or two about combat. He has profound knowledge of global historical events, multiple cultures, and also different people. Wolverine's extensive mental capacity also allows him to flawlessly multitask while focusing on what is crucial. His experience, skills, and attained smartness have helped him serve as a spy and interrogate enemies using his wits more than his brawn. So, Wolverine doesn't just have razor-sharp claws, he also has whetted intellect. Wolverine has extreme endurance. Endurance is a superpower that often goes unnoticed. Remember Captain America's famous line, "I can do this all day"? Wolverine, however, is a notch higher than Captain America when it comes to super endurance. Wolverine can take a beating and spring back up as if it never happened. He has been shot at, beaten up, and even burnt to charcoal. And yet, this super mutant has kept going in a fight. In X-Men The Last Stand, when Jean unleashed the Phoenix Force, only Wolverine could get close enough to kill her, despite layers of skin and muscles getting peeled off his body almost to the bone. But he endured it all, the pain, the fight, and finally killing his loved one. Of course, this extreme endurance is an offshoot of his healing power, but it is more than we have known any other superhero to have. His body has gone through a lot of experiments and breakdowns, only for his regenerative powers to build it right back up. This has added to his ability to endure extremities. It also expanded his lung capacity, allowing him to hold his breath for extended durations both above the ground and underwater. Wolverine's character has pushed the threshold of his body and mind like none before or after him. and the Marvel writers seem to have a lot of fun playing around with his skill sets. What can we expect Wolverine to do next? Come back from the dead? Oh wait, he's already done that too. Let us know in the comments which of these superpowers you enjoyed learning about the most, and what other power you would want Wolverine to possess.